Hey everybody, video here for you today, and this is kind of a request video. I've had a lot of comments and messages about these over the past months and really years. And Adam's calendar and the stone circles of South Africa that I'm going to be showing today. It's kind of near and dear subject to my heart just because this is like my second or third video I ever made, Adam's calendar from May 11, 2012. And I really didn't know diddly squat back then about ancient history, and I was just putting out all sorts of information. But back then, I actually had a little intro to my videos. I totally forgot about that. What on Earth? Now that's a show that uses Google Earth imagery to solve mysteries on TV. Where did they get that idea from? Well, I'm not going to say. But here is just a little look at the video I made, one of my first ones I ever did. And I will leave the link below to this if you want to check out how lame I was when I first started making videos. But today we're going to go down to Adam's calendar and we're going to look at some stone circle ruins. And I haven't investigated the dating of these because I just haven't had time. I've been investigating other stuff, but I can certainly show them here. And I'm sure some of you are kind of unfamiliar with these. Some of you may have seen these a long time ago. But here is the site of Adam's calendar. It's on this ridge here, and it's really overlooking this whole area. But the upright stones, and it's not really a stone circle, it's more of a stone formation, and it's right down here. And this would have been a great area to watch the stars rise and fall, because up on this edge here, it's one of the highest elevations in the area, and you really had a view of the whole horizon here. The stars falling and rising, that would have been an excellent place to watch right there. I will leave a few links below, but here is a look at Adam's calendar. These were discovered about 19 years ago. And I'll read about that in just a second here, but Michael Tellinger is the one mostly associated with these. He has pushed the dating of these way back in history, and it's all for speculation, and I just haven't done a lot of research into the dating, so if you have any opinions on the dates here, please leave them below. But here is a look at the site that Michael Tellinger and Johan Heine named Adam's calendar. Here's Ancient Origins. This article is from about 6 years ago. Adam's calendar, oldest megalithic site in the world, and that is all up for speculation. But here is one of the stone circle ruins I will be showing in a little bit here. But this site, is it very ancient? Well, it seems Adam's calendar could be a lot more ancient than the stone circles I'm going to be showing at the end of the video. Located in Mpumalanga, Africa, it is a standing stone circle about 30 meters in diameter, and has been estimated by some accounts to be more than 75,000 years old, but I think that is some pretty wild speculation. But since we have no solid answer, that is one that is suggested. It says various astronomical alignments have been identified at the site, and it is possibly the only example of a completely functional, mostly intact megalithic stone calendar in the world. Here is an overhead shot of Adam's calendar. Once again, I will leave a few links below. It says, known by African elders as the birthplace of the sun. The site was first brought to public attention in 2003 by South African pilot Johan Heine. He had been flying over the mountains of Mpumalanga, South Africa for almost 20 years and took an interest in the thousands of strange ruins he saw below. An air crash involving one of his crew brought Johan to discover the mysterious monolithic circle by accident. En route to find one of his pilots who crashed his plane on the edge of the cliff, Johan noticed an arrangement of large stones sticking out of the ground next to the crash site. While rescuing the injured pilot down the side of the cliff, Johan walked over to the monoliths and noticed that they were aligned to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, as well as the equinoxes and solstices. It says there were at least 3 monoliths aligned towards the sunrise, but on the west side of the aligned monoliths, there was a strange hole in the ground. After weeks and months of measuring and making observations, Johan suspected it was a stone calendar. But that is just a short history of Adam's calendar here. Here you notice from overhead that it's not really a stone circle, but it appears to be built aligned with the heavens and the celestial bodies. But I will leave a few links below, and you can leave your comments below on how old you think this site is. And my intuition tells me it could be very, very ancient. It could be 5,000 years old. It could be 10,000 years old. But here Here is Adam's calendar aligned at 11,500 BC with some alignments to Sirius, solstices, Orion's belt. I think this is just very fascinating. I think we have very few solid answers here. Also in the Ancient Origins article that I'm going to leave a link to below, they talk about these strange stone circle ruins in South Africa. And at first there was thought to be maybe 20,000, then 50,000. Now estimates maybe 250,000, and I don't have a problem with that just because I have found literally thousands of these on Google Earth. Now the rest of the video I think I'll just spend it on Google Earth here, but here is the site of Adam's calendar, and these stone circle ruins they start off relatively close to Adam's calendar, but I wonder if there was other circles down here or other ruins on the edge of this cliff, since it was a fine place to watch the heavens here. But let's go in search of these stone circle ruins, and they are found all over South Africa, but the area I'm going to concentrate on is about 25 miles to the west, 45 kilometers to the west, and I have a few sites marked here. It took me about 15 minutes to find these, but really you just go down here and you can start finding these all over the place. But here's the one that is on the website, I believe, right down here. These are said to be ancient cattle kraals, maybe coming from 500 years ago, and Michael Tellinger thinks these are thousands of years old. So there is wide-ranging speculations on these, but here is a very large one right there. Now let's zoom out and look at a few other locations, but as soon as you find a few, you can find a whole bunch of them. And they are really spread out all over many areas of South Africa. Right down here, there's a huge grouping of them. You can see them come into view here. And there is also some pathways coming off of these and ancient roads. Some of them are built up on top of hills here. But let's zoom in here so you can get a little better look. Some of these don't really have any entrances. Do these keep cattle? Were these designed for some other purpose? Well, it's all speculation, but there is a pretty large group right there. That is a pretty good grouping of them right there. And then if you just go a little bit to the northeast here, you can see a few more. Some you can see very well, some of them just kind of fading away. You can see little roadways or pathways at a lot of these sites. And then just up here, there is a few more right down in this area. Doesn't seem to be one pattern to these. They are made all different ways. There is another one right there. And very near this group, there is one site down here that is an actually marked archaeological site. This is the Makadodorp archaeological site, but you can see just dozens of these stone circles down here. You can see pathways, other things, irrigation, terraces, farming terraces, they theorize, but here you can see the pathways, the ruins. These are kind of faded with the vegetation growth on them here. They're not quite as easy to see. Here's one more look at that area. But you notice here, the circular ruin, that's about 65 meters across, that circle right there, and then it has the pathways coming out of it. Just ancient ruins, pretty fascinating to look at, that's for sure. And then just south of that area, we have all these ruins right down here. These are a little more easy to see, these right down here. But these are all roughly 50, 60 meters across. Some of them are a little bigger. But that is an area right down here. We have many of these. There's a good look at more of these. What were the purpose? Did people just live in these? Meant for cattle? Some of these ruins are found high up in mountains, so that doesn't seem to make the cattle theory very relevant, at least all these. But here you get an idea of the roads, the pathways here. A lot of these are interconnected, but there's an area where there are just many of them right there. Here's another area. You can see them very well down here. Whole bunch of them right next to somebody's house or something down here. But there is a whole grouping of them. And I just thought I'd do a video on this today. Can't give you any answers as far as the age of these. I think there's a wide ranging possibility on these. But if you want to leave your thoughts below, but this is a very interesting site down here. You notice the grouping of them right down here, and what the heck is this large feature right here that looks like a big V? That is just mysterious. And I showed in a video I made probably about 5 years ago some features that look like Nazca lines in South Africa along with these stone circles. I've done 2 on these total, but that is pretty mysterious right there. What would be the purpose for that in modern times or in ancient times? That is pretty interesting right down there, that is for sure. Here's another grouping of them right down here. You notice a little pathway out there, the stone ruins, and you notice down here also the trees are covering up some of these areas. The trees are growing a little differently on top of these ruins, but we have seems to me we have a pretty large one right there. And then something I just want to show you right over here are these pathways right down here. Are these something modern? But I find these all over the area. Not a lot of people in the area. What are those right there? Are those something ancient? Something coming from 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago? But those seem to be a little mysterious and connected to these circles, and there are some right down here. Right down here, there's a couple hills just covered in these ruins. You notice them all right there. And if I back out and just go right over here, this hilltop is just covered by ancient ruins and terraces, farming terraces. What are they doing here? But you get an idea how vast these are. Pretty complicated in this area. There's the ruins, and then they are just spread all the way down this hill here. That's pretty interesting. But just not down the hill here. It's in really the whole area. You zoom in just north of where I showed you, and there are those terraces. Stone circles with pathways coming out of them. And whether these are 500 years old or 10,000 years old or 3,000 years old, I just think these are fascinating. And then really close to this area, right down here, there is a bunch of them, and I mean a bunch of them. There is one right here that is very large. This is one of the bigger ones, 75 meters across, or about 250 feet across. And then just nearby, this hillside is just covered with them here. You can see pathways and circles upon more circles here. All different varieties, pathways. This is just very interesting and really makes you wonder the population, if these are found all over and hundreds of thousands of these, who were the people that built them? But this is what Johan Heine saw when he was flying over the area before he discovered Adam's calendar. Let's just do a tiny bit of reading. It says, in consulting experts on their origins, he was informed that they were the remains of cattle kraals, livestock enclosures left behind by the Bantu people who migrated from the north around the 14th century. Today, this theory seems far from definitive, as the structures are unlike any other Bantu cattle kraal designs, which are usually made from thorny shrubs with a single entrance for the cattle. There are also several thousands of them spread over tens of thousands of miles. So this is kind of controversial what these are. Michael Tellinger really pushes the age way back in history. But you can leave your opinions. I really don't have a definitive answer for these hundreds of thousands of ruins. Here is one area where they are kind of hard to make out, but you can see one right there with the pathway coming out. And then there is another one right down here, but this is right next to some sort of quarry site. And these appear to be getting destroyed in this area right down here. Here's another area right down here. You notice the circles. There's small ones, faded ones right there. And then there is a pretty clear one right there. And then it has these pathways. You notice that? Just like the other site I showed you right there. And then there seems to be an ancient pathway going that way too. And then you notice it keeps on going well over the mountain, miles away. That is pretty strange right there. Are those ancient pathways? You can see it perfectly right there, starting at this circle and then ending way up on the hill in the horizon up there. But you can see where that pathway goes up over the next ridge, and then right down here, this pathway goes for quite a while before it disappears. These are just fascinating ruins to look at, no matter how old they are. But let's just look at one more area here. This is called Overlook, probably because these stone circles are on an overlook. And there's a whole grouping of them right down there. And then if we back out, I think there is a little ridge down here. And then over here, there is a few more. And the ones across from here are they're right down here. There is one large one and a few smaller ones, but I don't think I've measured this one yet. This one across is about 108 meters. That would be about 360 feet across. That is one of the largest ones I have found. There probably is some larger than that, but that'll give you an idea. The stone circles of South Africa, if you have not seen them before, I have no solid answers on how old they are. The standard line says they're maybe 500 years old. Michael Tellinger says they are thousands of years old. And if you have anything to add to this video, please do. Just thought I'd show those today. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.